If you want to get started into modeling or you want to travel for modeling, this video is for you. If you watched my last video, you understand that about a year ago in April, I left Montreal, my hometown, to move to Europe for two main reasons. So the first one was personal and the second one was professional. I always had this dream of mine of living in Europe, traveling for work and doing something creative like acting or modeling. When I left, I didn't really have a plan in mind. I had somewhat of a plan. It was important for me to leave and to try to do this because I've been told often that I didn't really have the casting for Europe in general, but I didn't listen to what I was told because I'm a bit stubborn sometimes. And I decided to still try and to see where it could get me. I guess it wasn't a bad decision because I'm still in Europe at the moment. Before I get started by posting my vlogs, I wouldn't be comfortable to be selling a dream of working in fashion, traveling, and going to all the fun events without being honest and transparent about the legal side of modeling and the financial part. This video will be dense in information, so I will try to make it as short as I can and as completed as I can. Let's get started. I have all my notes here, so if you see me look, that's because I'm trying to be a good student and I'm trying to remember everything that I wrote down. The issue, I guess, with this industry is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. It depends every time of where you are, what kind of modeling you're doing, what kind of jobs you're getting. So there are many factors that will affect your pay. When you're a new face, you will most likely make less money than a model that has years of experiences. And the more known you are, the more money you can get because you're bringing more attraction. Not every market has the same standards, which is why if you're gonna get into a market, I would highly recommend to look into what the laws are, what the politics are, what's the standard when it comes to contracts, pay, percentage, all that kind of stuff. I feel like it's good to always seek inside information to know a little bit more about the market that you're trying to get in. The usage rights, so how the images and the videos will be used. Will it be posted on social media, on their website? Will it be a billboard, a campaign? The more time your face will be seen, the more money you will get. The agency that you sign with will have an impact. That's why you want to have an agent that believes in you and a team behind you that pushes you. Your agency is the one that will be negotiating with the clients. They will say, okay, this girl costs X amount of money per hour. That's so bad. It's a bad example, but that's how it works. I'm talking about modeling, okay? Stay focused. You will have an hourly rate, you will have a daily rate, and depending on that, your agent will negotiate. So your mother agency represents you worldwide. It's the one who secures contracts with agencies in different markets. You want to feel like you can trust their judgment. You want to feel like you have the same vision and that your values are aligned because they are the most important people in your representation. They will take X amount of percentage in their local market. So let's say it's something like 20%. And once you start traveling, they will take a certain percentage because they're the one who found you and developed you, and they are the one who are actively taking care of you. It is so important to understand what contract you're signing. I realized as I was traveling this year how many models don't know what they are signing, what legal contracts they're getting themselves into. Unfortunately, some people take advantage of the fact that it's mostly young people. They take advantage of the fact that they're not in a comfortable position where they can negotiate or know what their rights are, or even know anything about the industry. When you receive a contract, you should be able to look at the contract and talk about it with the agency that you might be signing with. You can negotiate a few clauses and say that you're not comfortable with this, or you're not comfortable with that. So you always have a say. I don't think you should sign with an agency just to sign with an agency. You have to be careful about who you trust and who you decide to represent your image and be in charge of your image. Here are a few key elements that you should look for before signing a contract. That will tell you how much percentage the agency will take from your gross rate. It should also specify how they will deal with your mother agency, so how they will split the money and how they will be giving the money to your mother agency. So when you have a mother agency and you sign with another agency in a different market, they will explain to you how much percentage they will take. Most of the time, if they say we take 40%, they actually take 30% and 10% goes to your mother agency. So make sure that this whole section is clear, because that's how one of my friends got scammed. Instead of taking the 40% that they said they would take, they took on top of it 10%. So in total, they were taking 50%. So make sure that there's no misunderstanding and that it is clearly explained and that you understand properly how the money will be distributed. So most contracts are between a year or 3 years, and it will mention the conditions and terms for renewal. You should always look for an escape clause, just in case you're signing a contract and for whatever reason it's just not working out, just to make sure that there is a way to go about it. It's normal to have a geographic exclusivity clause. It's very common. It's basically to say that in this specific country or this specific city, you're not allowed to sign with another agency or to have any freelance jobs. They represent you and your image in this area, in this part of the world. It should clearly say how both parties can terminate the contract. Sometimes it's your agency that will be like, look, it doesn't seem to be working. Sometimes it will come from you. You will feel like it's not the right fit. Most of the time, there is a clause that will say something about that. You will have the agency obligations, so how they will promote you, how they will negotiate, etc., etc. And you will also have the model's obligations, so something like you need to follow the agency's guidelines, you have to go to all the castings, or you have to let them know if ever you're leaving the city. This one to me is very important, especially right now in this moment. It's a clause about your data, so which data they're using, how they will get them, the purpose, and how it will be communicating. The whole digital footprint and also AI being a new element to our society and to this industry. We're not really sure exactly of where this whole thing is going. Talk about this with your agent to know which of your data are being used and how they will use it and for what purpose. In my opinion, we need to have a bit more of a structure and maybe have more clauses about the rights to your image. There will be a list of all the expenses that you will have, such as the portfolio, com cards, travel cost, and the contract should specify how it will be reimbursed. Will it be deducted from your earnings, or do you have to pay upfront? Here are a few red flags that I would recommend. I mean, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't go there. I'm just saying that you need to be careful. I've heard of contracts for 10 years, which in my mind is crazy. That's like a marriage contract. It's a very long-term commitment, especially if it's your first time signing with an agency. You don't even know if modeling is for you. You don't even know if that's something you want to pursue. I'm not saying that you shouldn't sign it. I'm simply saying that you should look carefully at the clauses to see if there is a way for you to get out of that contract if ever things don't work out. Try to negotiate the contract and see if you can make it less than 10 years. Another red flag would be unrealistic promises. It's good if your agency believes in you and that's what you want. You want an agent that thinks that you can make it, and they will tell you things like, I can see you working for this client, I can see you doing this. But if they promise the moon and back, I would be a bit skeptical. Although there are guarantee contracts, I know that in Asia that is very common. So that's when they will say that they guarantee that you will get X amount of jobs or X amount of money, and that if ever it's not the case, they still give you the money that they guaranteed you would have. And the last one would be if they pressure you into signing a contract. I feel like it goes without saying, but sometimes people are in positions where they don't feel like they can say what their needs are, and unfortunately, some people will take advantage of them. You should always be able to take a contract home, take your time to read it, highlight the contract, take notes on the side. If you have any questions, go to the agency, ask them the questions. If there are things that needs to be changed, have a conversation with them. Since models are considered as self-employed, there are many of your expenses that are tax deductible. And how I like to do it is whenever I travel, in my big envelope, I have all the small little ones where I put the different categories. And whenever I have a receipt, I put it in there. I try as much as I can to do it I'd say every week, no, I'm lying, every 2 weeks, sometimes once a month. There's nothing worse than when it's time to do your taxes to have all your receipts all over the place. So at least everything is organized and it's way easier, because I don't know about you, but I hate the time of the year where I have to do my taxes. It haunts me every time. I hate it so much. When you work internationally, you might have to pay taxes in the country where you worked. I know that as a Canadian, you can have the certification of Canadian residency, and that way you avoid paying double taxation. I know you can have this paper if you're from the United States, if you're working in Europe, but I'm not quite sure of how it works for other countries. When it's time to go to a casting to find an agency, or just any casting in general, I like to see it as I'm going on a date. Not that I'm flirting with them. I see it as a date because what I want to see is if we're compatible. Do we have the same values? Are we aligned in terms of my direction as a model, the image that I have? Do we have the same communication style? Because that is very important. Like most models, I get the imposter syndrome sometimes. I don't feel like I'm supposed to be there. I don't feel like I belong there. So that way, by seeing it as a date, I have to prove myself, but they also have to prove themselves. It makes the whole thing less stressful, and it takes all the power that I gave them away, and it gives me a bit more power to myself. Down below, I will put all the different questions to ask when you're trying to find an agency that is suitable for you. Before going to your casting with the agency, you will go on the agency's website and social media, look at what they do, for how long they've been in business, what kind of models they have signed, what kind of clients they have. Are they more high fashion or commercial? And that can help you to understand a bit better how the meeting is going to go. Trying to see modeling as a business helps to not get hurt as much, because then you understand that it's not necessarily that you're not good enough, it's because business-wise it doesn't make sense for them to choose you. And sometimes an agency won't sign you simply because they already have the same casting as you. The problem is that your image is the product. In order to do business, you have to put your ego to the side, and it's so much easier to say than to do. I mean, the number of times I came home, cried, and felt terrible about myself and thought about giving up and stopping everything and restarting my life. I don't think I have enough fingers to count how many times it has happened. I don't think I've met one single model that told me that they've never got hurt, or they never cried, or like that their ego has never been in the way. In order to give you a presentation of what a financial statement would look like, I will give you an example, and I'm using Canadian dollars because it's easier for me, but put it to any currency. It's just so you understand the basic part of a financial statement. In this example, let's say you already have a mother agency, you're traveling to a new country, and also the example that I'm giving is off 1 month, just because it's easier. Your gross rate, how do you say that word? Growth rate. Your gross rate, I have a hard time saying this word. I feel like it's a mouthful, and I feel like I have a hot potato whenever I say it. Gross rate. I think that's good. When your agent sends you your email to say that you have a job, he will tell you the gross rate, which in this case is 10,000. An agency can take up to it's between 10% to like 70%. So it depends of each market. For this example, we're choosing 40%. The agency where you will be working actually takes 30%. Your mother agency takes 10%. Roger that? I hope this is clear. So after the agency fees, you will be left with 6,000. And then we have all the expenses. The expenses aren't always the same every month. So let's say you have the accommodations, com cards, website, portfolio, flight. You have the choice to go to the model's apartment or to book your own apartment, Airbnb, whatever you're using. Personally, I like to start by going to the model's apartment because it's a great way to get to know the city, and it's a great way to socialize and meet new people. So let's say it's something like $30 a night. So that would be about 900. Com cards are like, it's like a business card with your images, your measurements. It says your name and the agency that you're assigned with. Most of the time they will print, or you will have to print a bunch of com cards. So it's not something you will pay every month. You will have that for at least, I don't know, 3 months. The website, the portfolio, if ever you have a tangible portfolio, they will make you pay for it. Sometimes your agency can pay for your flight, sometimes not. It depends of the model, it depends of the relationship you have with the agency. Some of them will say yes, some of them will say no. If we take out the agency fees and the expenses, you're left with $3,945. So it doesn't include the tax deduction. So let's say, for this example, your taxes are taking 35%, you would be left with $2,467. So we're quite far from the $10,000 that we had initially. I'm not doing this to scare anyone. It's simply to be transparent about what the numbers are like. I'm using $10,000. It doesn't really represent the industry properly because you could have one job that gives you 500 as much as you could have a job that gets you 30,000. You could work every day as much as you could not work for a month. Sometimes time are a little bit slower, something happens, you change your hair, it doesn't work with your casting, you have to wait for your hair to grow again or to change it again. So then for almost a year, you're not working. So it depends every time. Okay, so we're almost done. Before I left, I had to prepare myself to maybe not get any money for a year because I didn't know if I would be able to sign with an agency. I didn't know if I would be able to book any jobs. What I did is I worked 4 jobs. So I was a bartender 3 to 4 nights a week, serving in a restaurant part-time during the weekend. I was working in an office part-time also. As you can see, I'm a part-time girl. I like to do multiple things, little time, in order to never get bored. And I was also doing modeling. So I had all of these jobs, and right before leaving, I had it up to here. So when I arrived in Paris, I felt like I could finally breathe because I was preparing this for so long. So I was very excited and very hyper, and I was going all over the place. I'd say that the first few months when I left, I was a bit all over the place. I also have money saved up that I invested that I'm not touching, hopefully for the next 20 to 30 years of my life. I see it as my SOS money. I knew that if ever things were going really badly, I could always go there and get some money and be a little bit more comfortable and at ease. And I know that that's not everyone's reality. Not everyone is able to prepare a trip like this. So I'm very happy and very lucky that I did it, because if it wasn't of how I structured my finances before I left, I don't think I would have been able to be where I am now, to be able to be comfortable and happy and satisfied. And that is the reality of trying to pursue a creative career. There will be time where you will have to prepare for downtime. You will have to maybe get a shitty job that you don't like, that you're not passionate about, but you do it with the perspective that that is what will help you to later on succeed into this creative field that you want to pursue and you want to make it into. Honestly, that is one of the best gifts I gave to myself, was to properly prepare my trip financially, because modeling is already an industry where it is so stressful, especially if you are prone to anxiety. Not only it's a stressful industry, on top of it, if you have to be stressed about money, it's a lot on your plate. I know that for me it would be almost impossible to regulate my emotions if I had to be stressed about the industry and being stressed about the financial part of my life, and knowing that I have to depend on other people. Since I didn't leave only for professional reasons, I also wanted to travel and to be able to explore. And especially when you're from North America, everything is so far from each other and we don't have good public transportation. So I wanted to take advantage of the fact that I was in Europe and I could easily take the train, take the bus, visit for a weekend whenever I felt like it, because I often feel like I need a break from things. I wanted to make sure that I could afford not only the whole year, but also little trips here and there. That's how I managed to survive the year without being too stressed out about money. So I think I covered everything I needed to cover. Hopefully it's understandable. Feel free to leave a comment. Anything that has happened that is worth sharing, I think is a great idea, because it's not really something that is talked about, and I feel like it deserves to have an open conversation. Thank you very much for watching, and the next video will be a vlog and a lot more fun, blah 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 blah, and not just to sit down me talking to the camera with my face the whole time. Okay, thanks.